as the row between Pakistan and Iran escalates after Pakistan expelled the Iranian envoy and recalled its own from the country of Iran. Now, Pakistan has conducted airstrikes on what it's claiming are Balochi terrorist hideouts. Pakistan struck targets in Saravan, some 45 kilometers from the 900-kilometer long international border that it shares with the country of Iran. And reports also suggest that 7 casualties have been reported as a result of these strikes, with Pakistan and Iran now at loggerheads with each other. The big question at the moment is, can Pakistan really afford to engage Iran in a battle, or for that matter, any country? With an economy in shambles, surviving on bailouts from the IMF and China, and rampant corruption, with direct engagement along the border with Afghanistan and a cold standoff since the inception of the country to the north and the western border with India. Not to mention the internal political struggles that subsume the country in a general election this year. Can Pakistan really afford this kind of a retaliation is the big question. Joining us on the show is Group Captain UK Devnath, former Indian Air Force and Defence expert. Major General Gigi Dwivedi, Global Strategic and Defence expert, also with us on the program. Pathikrit Pine, International Affairs expert, joins us on the show. Last but not the least, Professor Madhav Nalapad, Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian, also with us on the program. Professor Nalapad, as I mentioned in my opening monologue, can Pakistan really afford to burn the candle at both ends at this point in time? You know, they can't afford to pay their employees, the bureaucrats, the diplomats who work for Pakistan. Can they really get into this kind of a scenario, knowing or unknowing, or perhaps being naive to the fact that China is only a fair weather friend?
Vineet, when we are talking of Pakistan, we are essentially talking of the Pakistan army. And when we talk of the Pakistan army, we are talking of an army that frankly has done immense harm to its own people. And more people in Pakistan are realizing that, even in the Punjab province, and they're turning against the army. You look at Imran Khan. Imran Khan was made prime minister by the army, but after some time, as a result of the fact that he saw the damage that the army is causing to Pakistan itself, the people of Pakistan, he started moving away from the military. And the army, therefore, the point about the army is, when you are in a dictatorial position, as the Pakistan army is in Pakistan, you need to basically always show that you are strong and you're stronger than anybody else. So otherwise, the fear is that the public will realize that you have feet of clay and they will come after you. So this retaliatory strike, essentially, I mean, I frankly, I don't buy this, that there were terrorist elements among the Baloch population, etc., etc. There could be some separatist elements among the Baloch population because they would be sympathizing with the immense tragedy that the Baloch are suffering in Pakistan. But this story seems a little far-fetched to me. They have done this basically to tell their own people, no, you cannot, get away with an attack on Pakistan. And they have done that. It's a tit-for-tat kind of thing. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, let me, close by reminding you, Vineet, the Pakistan military is a Wahhabi military. Ever since the time of General Ziaul Haq, when, frankly, that particular dictator took complete control of the army and Pakistan and executed the lawful prime minister of Pakistan, if I may add, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. The fact is, it's a Wahhabi army. And for the Wahhabi, I think, next to, even worse in some ways than the Jewish people, and certainly a lot worse than the Hindus or the Christians, are the Shia. The Wahhabis absolutely hate the Shia. And don't forget, Iran is the most important Shia majority country in the world. And the Iranian regime is very, very strongly backing Shia across the world, sometimes for very wrong reasons. As, for example, in the case of Hezbollah, and you can see it is backing a terror organization at its own cost. But the fact of the matter is that essentially the Pakistan army is a Wahhabi army. And therefore, when some outside powers, I'm sure with the consent of China, they would have consulted China and China would have said, go ahead. In my view, it's not China that basically, made Pakistan do this. There are some other countries that are against Iran. Uh, but China would have been very happy at this kind of fighting because China wants to provoke conflict wherever it can and draw attention away from itself and from its own activities. So I think, this is only part of this anti-Shia tilt of the Pakistan military, and it's ironic because the founder of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, was himself a Shia.
Absolutely. General Dwivedi, where do you stand on this? Obviously, it also begs the question, General Dwivedi, that is this likely to compound, the regional disturbances that we are already seeing in and around Israel because of the conflict there? Is this something that does have the propensity to escalate into something bigger? Are there other powers that could also be embroiled, with Pakistan and Iran? This is a matter of great concern. And where does this leave India?
Well, Vineet, I think you have flagged a very important issue as to will this pan out beyond the bilateral, conflict between Iran and Pakistan. So to that extent, I think we need to view this from the bifocal lens as to firstly, how exactly does it unfold when we look at Pakistan and Iran as a regional issue, and then what could be the repercussion in the wider spectrum when we look at from the strategic perspective. Firstly, the Iran and Pakistan, they are neighbors, but their relations have been very tedious, a typical high-low syndrome. At times they have had good relations, but of late their relations have been on a very rough turf, basically because of the political reasons, then also come the religious angle, Shia Sunni angle, but they both have one commonality, and that commonality is that they are using terrorism as a tool to further their national interest. And what we are seeing now is basically terrorists as proxy being used by both the sides, and it's not so much the conflict between the two nations, but it is the conflict that is being steered through proxy and the terrorists in the two different organizations. And this currently started after Iranians, they went and struck against the Jaish al-Adl, and they counter-strike against the Baluch Liberation Army and Baluch Liberation Front. Now that's where it stands, and I think that this will remain bilateral. It will not have so much repercussion because the two countries have a lot at stake and not to escalate, and they have mechanism to come to some kind of diplomatic, balance or equilibrium. But when we look at the strategic perspective, you see Iran of late, especially after the Hamas-Israeli conflict, has actually emboldened. They are reaching out and they are supporting all the kind of terrorist organizations, be it Houthi, who are actually quite active now in Red Sea, Hamas per se. They were actually prompted and they had a lot of support from Iran. And then Hezbollah, of course, are all the architect, the basic mother organization is Iran. So when I look at the whole spectrum, I feel that at this stage, Pakistan does not have the capacity to take on Iran, neither it is in their interest. Somehow the Chinese will be quite happy to mediate because in the new alignment of Russia, China, Iran, Turkey, Pakistan, always debilitating, they will come and do some kind of mediation and pull it off. But the major question is Iran. How Iran is playing a very larger than the size role and how they are trying to gain strategic space in West Asia or Middle East. That is what will be on the contentious issue. And my last point is that India need to wait and watch very closely because the Pakistan-China nexus is of great concern, and we are actually witnessing this both on the LAC and the LOC, and Pakistan will be always on some mischief, and Chinese will keep begging Pakistan to ensure that India is engaged and our focus from LAC shifts both to Pakistan and the LOC. Vineet.
Pathikrit, Jal Dwivedi brings out a very pertinent point. Proxies are also involved, in this sham of an attack that Pakistan labels it. But the fact of the matter is, where does this leave Pakistan? It is important to understand. Like Professor Nalapat also pointed out, that when you talk about Pakistan, it's not Pakistan, it's the Pakistani army. The people of Pakistan can go to hell. But the fact of the matter is, how long can Pakistan endure this and not be exposed and invite further trouble, say from an Afghanistan or in India for that matter?
Vineet, you're right. Let me tell you a couple of issues. Yes, they have opened another front possibly. Can they afford it? Practically no. For them to curtail the deployment, whether it's with the border with India or Afghanistan, is next to impossible. Can they financially afford it? Answer is no. But why have they done it? First, as it is has already been mentioned by Professor Nalapat, they can't be seen as completely nincompoops, even if they are so in the eyes of people of Pakistan. So they had to do something. But let me also add another angle to it. Pakistan also needs to remain relevant, and perhaps it was desperate to remain relevant in the eyes of United States and the West. So the question right now is this: if this conflict escalates, if it does escalate, can the West and the US allow Iran to have an upper hand on Pakistan? And whether Pakistan would leave it at it, or you would use this pretext to go to US and then say, look, we are also fighting your war against Iran because Iran is your arch rival, and therefore you must give us weapons and funds again to continue this war. If that possibility cannot be ruled out. It is true that it's an election year in the United States. There cannot be a major policy shift of United States towards Pakistan, but discrete supply of weapon systems and funds cannot be ruled out. Other issue is this: will it also give rise to a sectarian strife in the whole of Middle East? If it does, potential possibility of Israel benefiting out of it cannot be ruled out. What would UAE and Saudi Arab do? Would they look at it as a Shia-Sunni conflict and try to support Pakistan? I doubt so, but nothing can be ruled out. I think they will not try to, because Pakistan's relevance in their eyes and credibility in their eyes have gone down badly in the last few years. Had it been 2 decades back, it would have been very, very easy to predict that the Sunni Arab world will support Pakistan. But in today's era, it is not so easy. The question then is this: we have seen that the Houthis have been attacking ships of all kinds of countries except the Chinese. The issue is this: whether the Chinese have been checkmated this time or not, because Pakistan and Iran both are extremely relevant for China. Pakistan for all the purposes that we know in terms of containing India or the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Iran for China's energy security and $400 billion pledging that they have done in terms of investments in China. Question now is this: you see the same proxy war that was going on in Ukraine, the Russians and the Chinese on one side apparently, and the American and the West on the other side. In Middle East, we have a similar situation evolving. In this case also, you never know. The Pakistanis might go and say, look, Iran is a very strong ally of Russia, so we don't want them to have an upper hand. Now the West must help us. They will go with the begging ball, we know. But this is a reality. I think India has done the right thing in terms of stating that countries have the right to take steps for self-defense. Security of the whole of region from Red Sea to Persian Gulf remains a matter of concern. If there is an escalation, Pakistan, what happens to them is irrelevant because they're almost a bankrupt state. Beyond the point, Sudan or Somalia also never bothered what happens to them. So I don't think the Pakistanis will be even any worse situation than what they are today. The issue is the cost in the escalation in the price of energy commodities will be a major challenge. I think there is a convergence happening between the Western axis vis-a-vis the Russian axis, whether it is in Ukraine or Middle East, or perhaps in this entire conflict and in the Taiwan Strait region. I think eventually we may not see it today, but we have seen these pockets of conflicts coming together. It is very, very difficult to predict what would happen. I'm not saying that there will be no escalation, because I think the Iranians and the Pakistanis, they have one thing in common. Both have major social and political turmoil going on within their own domestic societies. Therefore, for them to pin it against somebody else and do an attack is not something, cannot be ruled out. Another issue, my last point, can Iran also, like Pakistan, as we have said, can they afford to open so many fronts? The issue is this: can Iran also afford to open so many fronts? They are fighting through proxies, like whether it's Hezbollah, Hamas, and Houthis, and now a direct frontal confrontation with Pakistan. How it evolves, it's a very interesting question. But I think, Vineet, my last point, I don't think either the Chinese or the Americans will sit quietly. The Americans might try to contain Iran from the northern side, and in that case, there are a possibility of them rearming Pakistan, giving them funds to engage Iran and keep them engaged in that place cannot be ruled out. How that would have an impact on Middle East and equation with India is something that we have to wait and watch. But the situation, as I stated, it's very volatile, it's very fluid. It is very difficult in today's era to even predict what would happen a week later. Vineet, back to you.
Good points there. Let me also rope in Group Captain UK Devnath. Group Captain Devnath, what do you make of this situation? Pathikrit is right. It does have a leaning towards, attracting attention and destabilizing the entire area.
Oh, yes, Vineet, very interesting development. The trigger point for the present was on 23rd of December last year, when some terrorists, Iran claims, from Pakistan, belonging to various small terrorist groups, and probably some belonging to Jaish al-Adad also, attacked Iranian border guard post and killed 11 Iranian policemen. Since then, there was some tension brewing up there, and we saw how Iranians attacked this target in Balochistan. Now, Pakistan establishment as a face-saving measure probably has carried out this strike. It goes without saying that Pakistan establishment is not very keen in, flaring up the issue further. The statement issued by their External Affairs Ministry is very clear. It says Pakistan fully respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Islamic Republic of Iran. Sole objective of today's act was in pursuit of Pakistan's own security and national interest, which is paramount and cannot be compromised. So you can read in this that Pakistan is almost telling Iran that the attack was not meant to be an attack on Iran, but on these chota-mota groups who keep operating from Iran soil, in this case probably Baloch Liberation Army fringe elements, and they keep attacking Pakistani rangers. Now, on the overall issue, we should not forget both the countries are, being Muslim countries, they're close. 1965 war, Iran supported Pakistan. 1971 war, Iran supported Pakistan. In fact, they gave some equipment also, and on the floor of United Nations, they voted in favor of Pakistan. I mean, when India had entered Bangladesh. Now, international dimensions are like this. Who is happy with all this development? I think Israel is very happy. I think USA is very happy. But who is worried? Right now, worried man is our man China. Iran is a friend of China. Pakistan is a friend of China. China knows that right now China's immediate priority is to support Iran so that Iran can unilaterally pay attention to Hamas and to support Hezbollah and to support Houthis. Iran and Pakistan's skirmish is putting a lot of stress on China, because China probably since last 48 hours must have rung about 100 times to the ministers and prime ministers on either side to cool down, to cool down, to cool down. China is a worried man because Iran and Pakistan remains its two master key players, wherein China slowly wants to dominate West Asia. Oil producing states, Muslim states, Arab states, that is priority of China in next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. China has made friends with China has helped Saudi to make friends with Iran. So China wants that good ship, that friendship between a very, very Sunni Saudi and a very, very Shia Iran to flourish. In this game, probably right now, these small skirmishes are taking place. But Vineet, my reading is that China will be able to convince Iran as well as Pakistan that having assuaged the pride of your domestic audience, now both of you need to cool down. Yes, Vineet?
Professor Nalapat, concluding thoughts from you, sir. Group Captain Devnath is of the opinion that China and its influence and its clout will be able to resolve this issue.
Look, with all respect to all the views that have been expressed, the fact of the matter is that the aim of the Pakistan establishment is to try and shift the attention of the Baloch away from the territory of Pakistan into territory of Iran, and tacitly support groups that basically are saying, all right, let's forget about Pakistan, let's concentrate on quote unquote liberating the Baloch in Iran. And don't forget, there's a substantial chunk of territory in Iran that the Baloch would like to have as their own state. Now, the second point is that as far as the Baloch are concerned, the treatment in Iran is much better, except for a few elements of working for an independent entity with the assistance from not only Pakistan, but from some countries in the West also. The fact of the matter is, very simply, that it is Pakistan and the Pakistan military that is really hounding, harassing, and torturing the Baloch. And this is something which Baloch on the other side of the border, they frankly cannot stand. And therefore, there have been activities for some decades now against the Pakistan military because of the persecution of the Baloch. Now, so far as Iran is concerned, I'd like to say that the clerics in Iran, they're making many mistakes, and one of the mistakes is supporting Hamas, because Hamas is at its base a very anti-Shia organization. But at the same time, you have Hezbollah, which is Shia, supporting Hamas. So actually, this is a very confusing kind of a strategy, but is explainable by the fact that Ayatollah Khomeini believed that the key to ensuring that the Islamic Ummah follow the example of Iran, in other words, follow the theology which is being supported by Iran. I don't believe, but is the Palestinian cause. That the more you support the Palestinian cause, the more you oppose Israel, the more the Muslims will come to you. That is not correct. So far as UAE is concerned, so far as Kuwait is concerned, Saudi Arabia is concerned, Bahrain is concerned, they're all far away from, even Saudi Arabia, far away from Wahhabism. They're not going to come close to Wahhabism in any way. And the Pakistan military, unfortunately, is still clinging to Wahhabism. As far as China is concerned, it wants Wahhabism. It wants extremism. It wants Iran to take a very hardline line. It wants as much trouble as it can generate elsewhere so that it has no problem in its own backyard. And lastly, may I remind you, Vineet, when we are talking about oil prices, well, don't forget, the Chinese have now got a captive supplier in Russia. And they are working at high speed to ensure delivery of oil by sea and by pipeline from Russia. So given that, disrupting the oil supply of other countries, notably India, Japan, South Korea, other countries like that, frankly, there will be people in China who will say, fine, we will get our oil from Russia and the Indians will suffer. And they won't mind that at all. So I only want to say that I don't believe the Pakistan military would have conducted a strike on Iran, which has correctly been pointed out is so close to China, without the permission of the Chinese Communist Party. This is my view, and I stand by it.
All right, absolutely, sir. Jal Dwivedi, concluding thoughts, sir?
Well, Vineet, I think when we talk of proxy wars, they do not follow the conventional format, and proxy wars do tend to spin out, and this is one of the spin out I feel between the two terrorist organizations of two countries. But when you see the larger picture, I am sure this will actually be controlled because China calls the shot and they'll ensure that both the sides have scored one goal each. Now they'll sit down. But China will ensure that Pakistan continues to serve its interests, especially against India, and also Iran continues to serve Chinese interests in Middle East. I think to that score, this will come down. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, India will remain on target on the horizon. And as far as Iran is concerned, they'll continue to meddle in the waters of Middle East and make situation quite difficult both for Israel and USA and its allies. Vinit.
Pathakrit?
Vinay, two quick points. Amirullah Saleh made a very important tweet today. It was almost congratulating Iran. So I think there's a potential possibility of even Afghan Taliban, though Amirullah Saleh is against the Taliban. I think that there's a potential possibility of Afghan Taliban and Afghans in general and the Iranians on their common enemy, which is the deep state of Pakistan. That cannot be ruled out. So let me tell you one thing. There is no denial that China has strong influence on both Pakistan and Iran. But let's not presume that China has absolute stranglehold on these two countries. Now, if a situation arises, whether it is in Pakistan or Iran, that the general population wants vengeance and revenge, then it becomes very difficult either for the Pakistani regime or the Iranian regime to completely ignore it. As I stated, has Iran also stretched itself too far is something we have to look up to. But it also increases the relevance of Iran. And I must admit one thing, my last point, the neutrality that India has maintained by not naming Iran, even though there are telltale signs of Houthis and Hamas being supported by Iran, by not naming Iran and by saying that Iran has a right to self-defense, I think India's credibility in the eyes of Iran has gone up even when India has strong, credible relations with Israel. I think the international North-South transport corridor, its importance for India goes up even more. It is an evolving situation. Let me tell you, we can only guess what can happen. We have absolutely no idea how things would turn. Pakistan, to presume it will not do anything more, to presume Baluch Liberation Front will no more have attacked Pakistan and Jaish-ul-Adal will not do anything on Iran, I don't think China can control them beyond a point. This is my view.
Right. Group Captain Devnath, 30 seconds, sir.
Vineet, I am very happy as an Air Force man. As per intelligence summary, Pakistan Air Force has about 400 precision-guided munitions. They claim that they attacked Iran with precision-guided munitions, that is laser bombs or GPS-guided bombs. So out of these 400 bombs, if they are holding, if they fritter away and waste 4 or 40 of these bombs on some Iranian targets, as an Indian Air Force planner at directive level, I am very happy. I'll go back home today smiling. Yes, Vineet?
All right, okay. A positive outlook and insight into this conflict that has plagued the subcontinent. We've run out of time. We'd like to thank all our guests for being a part of this conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.